All right, everybody. I am a little nervous doing this live streaming because the feed store just let me know the chicks have arrived and I got to go cut some you know what to get myself in line for those chicks for the future of the food safety of the United States of America. We actually just want some Easter eggers and olive eggers because we want some blue eggs and some green eggs. So it's not really that serious. But I'll tell you what, our feed store, they run out of chicks within a couple hours of the chicks arriving. So they just told me. So I've got basically like 2 hours. So Bill and I are just going to get right to it. And it just works out that today we're also talking about eggs because the New York Times recently sent me an email with this article in it. And the subject line was no eggs, no problem. And here's the headline: egg prices are still up. Here are 5 easy substitutes. And the entire premise of the article is basically like, look, bird flu is being blamed for this mass shortage of eggs because, well, we're killing, like, I don't know, we've killed over 150 million chickens at this point in the last couple of years. And I will say, please look at some of the other videos I've done with people on this because you'll see how ridiculous this mass slaughter is of the healthy chickens, especially when you hear from people like Joel Salatin, famous farmer Joel Salatin, other people, Dr. Merrill Nass, for instance. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the media coverage. Because, Bill, this is eerily reminiscent of an article I did a video of several years ago from Fox talking about NBC suggesting just don't have Thanksgiving turkey this year to deal with inflation costs. So it's kind of a similar thing. It's like, the food system's crashing down. You can't afford turkey. There's no eggs anymore. But you know what? Just get over it. In this particular case, it was have lasagna. And then fewer people will come to Thanksgiving and you'll cut costs even more because you'll have no friends anymore coming over. And in this case, the New York Times saying, you know what? Just use tofu, or like here's flax gel. Here are the options: flax gel, aquafaba, which is like the waste in the can of chickpeas, mashed banana or applesauce,
Oh, oh,
tofu, mashed potatoes or sweet potatoes or pumpkin puree, and no problem. You don't need eggs anymore. You just have those instead. I have my thoughts on this. I'm going to defer to you for opening comment, Bill, please.
okay. So I don't know if I'm educated enough to talk about poultry. I will say I find it funny how a certain person got elected on the back of egg prices are too high, and here we are, a few months later into the new year, and egg prices are still too high. So I think that's funny. I think the media coverage of it is a joke, and I will also say that fresh off a trip from Ireland, over in Ireland, this is not even a thing. Okay. This is not an issue. I mean, there's eggs and milk and cheese all over the place. So why is it, if the bird flu is such a big thing, why is it just an issue in North America? I'm struggling to comprehend this. Now, I will also say that, and Allison, you may have a differing opinion here, and I'm not trying to hit too close to home, but I feel personally that in America, a transaction or how to start a business should be as easy as, hey, I have farm fresh eggs. I'd like to sell you these eggs. Hey, I would like to buy your eggs. And it
Uh,
should be that simple. Why is it so hard to just go from farm to table?
Great question, Bill. Before I get to that, AllisonMorrow.locals.com, where you can also put in questions. You don't have to host the show like Bill. You can put in questions over here on my editorial board. And one of the comments, actually two related to estrogen, because I just brought up the tofu. Blanket Mom saying, oh, nice, more estrogen, just what men need right now.
Right.
And DMSR, if men don't get any, or sorry, if we men get any more estrogen in this toxic soup, I will just say we don't need more men trying to play women's sports. All right. So I
Keep
will
eggs
tell
out of
you,
men's sports.
hey, follow my Off Gridish Living channel. I'll promote that in a second. But if you want farming tips and stuff like that, definitely, we have a small farm now. To Bill's point, we are trying to figure out what we're going to do because, yeah, technically, for instance, in Florida, if you want to sell eggs in Florida and you don't want to get like the big commercial, some kind of commercial big, like, big license, you're not, thousands and thousands of eggs. They have this limited poultry license, but it comes with all these requirements that, for instance, like my customers do not want. They don't want their eggs washed because washed eggs don't last as long. It doesn't, they have a bloom. Eggs have a natural protective covering on them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so you can keep them out of a refrigerator for many weeks actually, and they're fine. And the bloom protects the nutrition and it keeps it from decaying so fast. So a lot of people don't want that. Plus, you got to use their approved washing fluid. So a lot of people don't like that either. And so yeah, so the second that you play nice with the government, then you are going to be following their rules, and like a lot of people just don't want that. So you have to decide kind of even as early as we are, like what kind of operation are you going to run? Because at some point the government could come knocking on your door. Now, I've done lots of interviews with small farmers that are like, do not do the permits. The permit is a contract with the government. It means they can come on your land anytime. Instead, do something like a co-op, a private membership association, stuff like that. More on that in other interviews. I want to say, though, if you want to send me mail, okay, and you have tips, maybe you have tips you want to send in the mail about you're a farmer, how you got around this stuff. Because to Bill's point, the reason all this matters is that we have these massive farms now with like, gazillions of chickens, like, really like tens of thousands of chickens. And because we've made it harder on the little guy to compete and stay in the business with all the permitting and the rules and the costs and everything, we've created this system in the United States where we have a few big centralized farms, bigger farms that can afford to stay in the game. They're usually owned by companies like Tyson or Purdue. And then when there's a problem and they kill all their chickens, like that just killed a lot of chickens. We don't have a decentralized farm situation where if one farm goes down, you still got a bunch of other farms. So we do need to make it easier for people like me to be able to feed our neighbors. We're not talking about feeding the whole United States of America here at our farm. We should be able to feed our neighbors. So send me your tips. PO Box 3355, Denellen, Florida 34432. What do you think? Okay. And Bill,
Yeah,
please.
I was going to say, I honestly feel in my heart that this is just the government being pissed off because they can't make money off of your bat. What do I mean by that? Allison is a small farmer, and I just happened to drive by her house and I see all these chickens. Hey, ma'am, do they have do you have fresh eggs? And you say, yes, I would love to sell you a dozen for $2, farm fresh eggs. Here's $2. Why does it have to go beyond that? For the same reason that you can't buy a tiny home and just put it on a plot of land and live off of solar and well water, because you're bucking the system. You're not paying the taxes. You're not paying the utility companies. You're not paying, all the BS. That's what it breaks down to, in my opinion. Allison, if I'm wrong, please tell me.
It's definitely a money game, but it's also a control game. I'm actually going to be
Yeah, yeah,
uploading a
yeah.
video soon about this guy I interviewed at a food conference recently who has a food forest community. Okay. So a bunch of people living together on land where like the entire property is food. It's, they don't grow just like a tree for aesthetics or shade. They grow everything has like a food purpose, and they have declared themselves free. They say they don't pay slave taxes, and they do not pay property tax or income tax. And so far, he hasn't had anybody, send him to jail. But he said he could go to jail. Anyway, it's called Galt's Landing. I got an interview I'm going to be uploading soon, so stay tuned for that. All right, I want to show you a video in 1 second about this and give you my media analysis. I'll show you the video from Thanksgiving a couple years ago when NBC suggested just have lasagna. But don't forget your green pasture, okay? Go to greenpasture.org. As soon as the show is over, use your promo code Allison, Alison, for 10% out at checkout. They've got amazing products here for your health, omega-3s for your brain, fibromyalgia, you're tired all the time, you're not getting enough vitamin A, not getting enough vitamin D. What we take is the fermented cod liver oil and concentrated butter oil blend. So both of these products are mixed together because they synergistically work so that your body absorbs both of them more than if you just took one without the other. Developed the way that the Dr. Weston A. Price, biological dentist turn of the century, noticed lots of his patients were getting cavities. This is what he came up with, and it's a fabulous product. We've been taking it for over 10 years. I used to get cavities all the time, and I'll tell you what, 12 years ago, I'd go every 6 months to the dentist. I'd always have cavities, and I switched to starting to take about a tablespoon or so a day. And I'm not kidding you. The next time I went in, they were marveling at my teeth. So go get it. Greenpasture.org, promo code Allison. It's great for all kinds of other health issues. Try it out. Let me know. But definitely for your dental health, if you're somebody who struggles with cavities, gum disease, that kind of stuff, check this out. Okay, so let me share with you this video. Again, this is from Breaking Points, Bill's favorite show with Crystal and Sagar. They they shared this video with commentary. I'm just going to show the clip from NBC. Okay, here we go.
And while we are on the topic of something that could be controversial, perhaps forego the turkey. Bear with me. Ooh. I know that is the staple of the Thanksgiving meal. However, some people think turkey is overrated. And so it tends to be the most expensive thing on the table. Maybe you do an Italian feast instead. And I will say this. If you tell everyone you're having a Thanksgiving without turkey, some guests may drop off the list, and that's a way to cut costs too.
Okay, so I have a similar reaction here to them. Honestly, I did a whole video about this a couple years ago, and I just think it is really interesting whenever the media, which is highly capable of stirring hysteria, let's be honest, right? They're very good at stirring up hysteria when they want to. So when they're trying to tell us to calm down, it always makes me wonder, like, oh, why do they want me to just calm down? Right?
It raises the antennas.
They never want us to calm down. They always want us to freak out. So when it comes to this stuff, it's like, okay, they're telling us don't freak out, just have lasagna. Who are they running PR for? Well, at the time, it was because of Biden inflation, right? Gas prices were up, food was up, people were PISSED. And so NBC's like, come on, just have lasagna. It's not that big of a deal. And now, this is interesting. We're seeing the same tactic from the New York Times with the egg stuff. Now, my theory on this is that if it were just a Trump thing, like if the mass slaughter of all of these chickens had happened just under Trump, I actually think we might have seen different headlines. But I think because a lot of this came under the Biden administration, that's why they're being so generous to the topic. I think if we would have, if this was just like Trump came in office, all of a sudden egg prices went up because they're killing a bunch of chickens, because they're definitely not letting the tariff stuff go, right? So they're hard on that. Prices are going up. Be mad about the tariffs. But when it comes to the bird flu stuff, it's like, you know what? Just get chickpea liquid or tofu, and everything's going to be fine. Folks, if you hear nothing else from me today, if the New York Times ever sends you something that says no problem about this, it probably is a problem. It probably is a problem, and they just don't want you to worry about it for some particular reason. If they send you something they want you to freak out about, I would be equally skeptical. I would actually, anytime they tell you, don't worry, there might be something to look into. And every time they tell you that there's something that you should really be freaking out about, I would also look into that. I would not ever take their advice at face value. I would do a lot of research. And finally, I think journalism when it comes to agriculture is absolutely terrible. It's a complete disaster in the United States. I was somebody who started an agriculture beat in Knoxville, Tennessee, when I was at WBIR in Knoxville. I knew literally nothing about agriculture, and I was the agriculture reporter. I didn't even know what feedlots were. I learned so much over the next decade that I was in the TV news business, so much so that at the end, I basically left because I wanted to be a farmer. I decided I really wanted to get in the game and stop just reporting on it. I wanted to start doing it myself. And so the journalism around agriculture is terrible. Most of the reporters at this level are living in cities. I would guess many of them have never been to a farm. If they have, it's not something that they're going to Whole Foods maybe or Trader Joe's. That's their connection. And so besides like the political bias, they have a bias, away from away from country type lifestyles because they live in the cities. I mean, when you're gaming the system to get up higher in journalism, you're going to end up in a more concentrated big city. That's how it works. You want to go work for the New York Times, guess where you're going to live? New York, probably. You're going to go work for Politico or something, you're going to live in Washington D.C. I mean, there's a few hubs: Chicago, New York, Washington D.C., maybe Miami. Seattle, which was one of the places where I live, but at least you still had some connection to the land in Seattle and the water. And so
Well, hold on. I gotta interject real quick with that.
yeah.
Outside of Seattle, Washington is a beautiful, blossoming place for outdoors and farming and everything. Am I wrong in that? I mean, I've only been to Seattle once, but I feel like Washington State, once you get out of Seattle, you can live off the land.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the Snoqualmie Valley is like could be like the breadbasket of America, like California. It really, which has always made me, I still remember when Al Gore came to town to talk about his next doom and gloom documentary, and he imported all this food from, like, I remember Turkey was like, or the Middle East somewhere. He got like figs and stuff and dates and everything. And I'm like, why didn't you just get food from like down the street? Because we have all these farms. I mean, that would have proven the point, right, of lower carbon emissions, like getting local food and stuff like that, or at least being better to the environment. There's so much organic, regenerative farming happening in the area, but he chose not to do that for some reason. Anyway, big picture, the media does terrible agriculture and food reporting and health reporting. We all know that over the last 4 years, they were terrible on public health and they're terrible on agriculture. And if we are not paying attention to the food system now, with the fragility that we've seen over the last few years of how these systems can fail very quickly, then I don't have much hope for where we're headed, simply because it's like now or never. We're starting to get to the point where you're going to have so few choices and the government's going to have so much control that it will become near impossible for you to be able to choose your farmer, because they won't exist anymore. And that's the thing that, I remember Robert Barnes coming on and talking about Amos Miller, the Amish farmer. He's like, yeah, the government will tell you, hey, you have the right to eat what you want. They'll tell you that, but they will make it impossible for you to find it. And so like, whether you call it bird flu or inflation or whatever, almost all of this stuff, it at the foundation is a terrible management by the government policies and frankly, collusion with some, big money corporate farmers, along with the fact that consumers have not cared about their food and health for decades. So let's talk about wine real fast. AllisonWinePromo.com, and get your glass of amazing wine from all kinds of remote vineyards. I got my bottle right here, and you will get 6 of them, 6 bottles every 3 months. Join the wine club and never have an empty hand when you go to a cocktail party, a birthday party, anniversary, whatever. You already got your Allison Wine Promo ready to go. They're all hand selected for the kind of products that I like, which is very clean. They don't use the kinds of flavorings or dyes and fillers that a lot of the wines you get at your local liquor store or grocery store use. Most of these you could not get in the United States if you weren't part of the wine club. So go join AllisonWinePromo.com and support the show, and always have a great glass of wine on hand. Our Off-Gridish Living channel, I forgot to say this while we were live on the other channels, but on Rumble, but our Off-Gridish Living channel, where you can watch amazing videos like this. All right. If you go to Off-Gridish Living, find our farm channel, you can watch this. This is how to tame a rooster. Enough of you. I've had enough of you. Hey. This is what you do. Take the rooster. No, you get away. Take the rooster, put his head in the sand, just like that. I'm watching you, Bard Rock. All right. Put his head in the sand. All right. And you just keep him like this. Okay.
Thank you, Allison, for showing my wife how to take care of me.
And we walk away. I think it's hilarious that so many wives have commented on this. Does this work with husbands? So I just have to say that.
Okay, I don't get me wrong. I love you, and I love what we do in our media analysis is amazing stuff. But I swear to God, your more entertaining and more informational stuff comes from your homestead videos, and I'm so proud of you for that.